Welcome to Discuss With Us podcast, where we are unpacking the world through a Christian lens. I am your host, Darcy Durkowski, along with my husband, Brian, and our intention is to pose topics, trending and otherwise, and unpack them with the help of some research, insights from our different backgrounds, and even some listener input in a way that is thought-provoking and entertaining. So get comfortable, grab your favorite beverage, and discuss with us.
Welcome back to another episode of Discuss With Us. Darce, how we doing?
Pretty good, other than we should have been out here an hour earlier, but our boys refuse to go to sleep when we tell them to.
That's all right. This will just be quick.
Yeah, probably.
No reason to go too long with this.
No. But this will be fun, I think. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is lighthearted.
Yeah, so, well, lighthearted
I
and
guess
dark.
it's not, yeah.
We're talking about Halloween today.
Yeah, there's the lighthearted part. And death.
That's what I mean. So, let's start off here. How did you grow up celebrating Halloween? Did you celebrate Halloween?
Well, like a normal person, we went trick-or-treating. What do you mean? We dressed up and went trick-or-treating in our neighborhood.
I know, but like traditions, what was your favorite costume? Dig deeper, Brian.
I don't know tradition-wise. We would just dress up. I do think...
Because y'all went trick-or-treating in Houston, right?
Yes.
You were in Houston
Yes.
for a while.
I guess I'll say this is the favorite because it's one of the only ones I can remember. We would obviously... I know there's pictures of dressing up like a cowboy or whatever, you know, the typical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite one was being the white Power Ranger, Tommy.
Oh, yeah.
But not just normal Power Ranger. It was when the movie came out, and so they were ninjas.
Interesting.
Do you not remember that? The Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie, they gave up all the, like, dinosaurs and stuff, and they had to get in touch with, like, Mother Earth. It was when Ivan the Ooze took over, and they lost their Power Ranger powers, and then they had to go, like, find them from this tree of nature or something.
It's funny. I have very like fond memories of Power Rangers. That's why I like when the boys watch it. But I didn't ever actually get too terribly into it, and we always laugh because I think my dad liked the Power Rangers more than all of us, and he listens, so he's gonna hear this. And
yeah,
but
I was
he used
into
to always
the
turn it
OG.
on Saturdays.
I had no idea. Power Rangers in space, all the other things that happened after the end of the original
we didn't.
ones
We only
were
watched the originals.
all I knew.
Yeah.
And I stopped shortly after this because I don't remember anything after it. But that would have been mid 90s, like 96, probably 96, 97.
When you watch it back, is it like you remember or is it different?
No, I remember a lot of it. I mean, it's terrible acting, and I probably didn't pick up on that.
I guess that's what I'm saying. It's funny to watch it back.
Yeah, and they've watched some of it. It was hard for a while. We had the movie on VHS, but I specifically remember because they didn't have their power suits, and so it was like fluttery, like it was a ninja costume, just with the Power Ranger emblem on it.
Yeah. My brother was a ninja one year. And it was like a white outfit too. I wonder if that was any connection.
I'm trying to think. Tommy went from being White Tiger to Falcon.
Okay.
He was a falconess, and they all had to have real animals. They couldn't be the prehistoric anymore. So, if anyone needed to know that. But we would go trick-or-treating.
Did you go in your neighborhood, or did y'all have to like go to a...
No, we went in our neighborhood. When I lived in Houston, I guess the one funny thing is, because this will probably line up with you, when we moved to Chapel Hill, so I was in 4th grade. So and this is what's crazy. I don't remember ever going trick or treating here. Maybe once, maybe, and but after that we just didn't go.
Yeah.
But one year, it probably was the first year we lived up here, because my parents would have had no idea where to go, and so we trick or treated in our house.
Oh yeah, you have told that
Yeah,
story
and my
before.
parents went to like every room of the house, which wasn't very many. I mean, it's like I think we even did like the bathroom or something. Like they would run in there, and we would just go trick or treat, and my mom just bought candy. And
That's really cute though.
yeah, I don't even know if we had to have dressed up maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, we didn't go like into town. I mean, we
Yeah.
lived way out, so they weren't. My parents didn't know what neighborhood to go trick or treating in,
Yeah.
so we just did it there.
Well, that was, like you said, that was my experience too because we lived on a family property. So our only, I don't think we ever even like went door to door to my grandparents or anything,
Yeah,
or I don't know.
you had a commune. You had multiple houses you
Yeah,
could
I
go
guess we
to.
could have, but no, we never did that. We always had, but we did always have a huge fall festival event at First Baptist where the whole gym, like they set up all kinds of different fall games and booths, and it was a really big deal. I remember it being very crowded, or at least it was in my head, my
Yeah.
memories. But no, it really was like super well attended, and they had, I mean, the amount of
So you
booths
didn't
and
trick or treat.
crafts. We never trick or treated.
So taking our kids, do you want to trick or treat when we take? You don't even usually go.
What are you talking about?
I thought I've taken the kids like door to door because we've gone on the golf carts.
Oh, you mean okay? I'm like
Actually,
I'm
trick or
there.
treat. Yeah, and you're
I'm just
there.
staring at you. I'm like I've been to everything that we've gone to.
No, but you've never
But
like
no,
knocked
I
on the
have
door
not.
and
No,
gotten
I have
candy.
not.
Oh, you well. All right, I
Maybe
guess
this
you'll
year I'll
have to
have to
go
go.
this year. You've never
I'm
done it.
always well. So, last year I was holding down the fort with Dylan because he was. I just hang out in the yard with the other moms because now we go to Allison Street.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hang out with the other moms there, but I've either always had a little one that wasn't going on the trailer to take care of, or that
Mm-hmm.
one year I was extremely pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess 2 years ago before Dylan was born, because he was born on November 16th. So I
Yeah.
was very pregnant. Um,
But I'm just realizing this is still
yeah,
32 years old and you've still never trick or
nope,
treated.
nope, nope. Um,
You'll have to dress up this year.
Maybe so. We did. So, yeah, we always had fall festivals. And then there were several years, and I think this was still associated with First Baptist and maybe like my parents' Sunday school or something. But there were a couple of years where we did hay rides out at our property.
Oh,
And like,
cool.
I think that was like their Sunday school. I think that was the group that came out there and everything. So we had like a whole fall party. Um, and I'm pretty sure my dad dressed up as the headless horseman,
Of course.
which tracks, yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of years. So yeah, I have lots of memories like that. But yeah, we didn't go trick or treating really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm trying to think of like, well, easily my favorite costume. But this is when I was a little older. But I was
Okay.
Jasmine one year. I borrowed it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I borrowed it from Dixie Mahalik, and I think that's where I got it from. And I was obsessed with that costume. And I was little, but I thought I looked so good in it. I got to wear makeup,
Oh, wow.
and Aladdin was my favorite movie growing up.
That's not a
Um,
bad one. Good songs. Robin
yeah,
Williams.
yeah. So that was, I think, probably my favorite one. And then I was texting my mom earlier to remember some of the ones that we did. Because I can remember a lot of them. Um,
Oh,
I think I was a mouse. It was either me or maybe Olivia.
a
Like, so,
mouse.
yeah, so we had a mouse costume. I remember a bumblebee costume, which I think a couple of us went through that. I don't know that I was a bumblebee. I think it was Sam and Olivia were a bumblebee one year. And then we did the typical things like cowboys and I was a clown one year,
You
and
still are.
thanks. And Sam was a clown, like a rodeo clown one year. Yeah, we did all kinds of stuff. I was a gypsy one time. Anyway,
Isn't
I
it funny how I'm assuming a lot of these were like used stuff in the house?
yes. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Most of ours, other
And I
than
think
I
most of
think
mine were.
like
That's why like the Power Rangers one sticks out. Like
mhm.
I don't remember. I do remember one time. Oh, I do have a funny one. That scar on my head, which is faint now, but I ran into
Okay.
the corner of the wall right before Halloween. I was trying to turn off. I still remember this. I was trying to turn off a light, um, like really quickly watching TV, like our kids do. But I was wearing socks, and I slipped, and I hit the corner of the wall, and it split my head open. But I didn't need a butterfly. I didn't need stitches, and so I went as I had a spiky hair.
Uh-huh.
Then it was the '90s, um, and so yeah, this is like probably I was in like second grade, like probably like 94, 95 maybe. And so I was like Frankenstein with the
Very nice.
flat top hair and the
Yeah.
scar in the middle of your face.
Very nice.
But we always had, for
Yeah,
the
all
most
of
part, we
ours.
put ours together, and now like we spend $100 on kid costumes.
Yeah. No, the ones I want to say the bumblebee and maybe the mouse were the ones I remember that I think were bought costumes. Other than that, everything was what we brought together. But all of it, because we used to always do like face paint and all kind of stuff. So
Uh
we
huh.
went all out. But yeah, it was all stuff that we had at the house or borrowed from somebody. We borrowed costumes sometimes, passed them around.
Yeah.
Especially between the cousins. So, yes, very fond memories. But yeah, we always called it. My mom was always pretty careful. We always said like fall festival and celebrating fall and things like that, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is more of a Protestant way of looking at it, which has to do, I think, we'll get into the history here, but like um, part of Halloween and the
Right.
history behind it is, All Souls Day and things like that. And so there's like a little difference in belief in whether there's actually a purgatory or not, or if you need to pray for souls if they're already gone, things like that.
Yeah, I
So
learned more about this than I ever knew. Just
researching for
researching
today.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was, and it's really interesting. I very much enjoyed, if you haven't looked up the history of Halloween, I enjoyed reading about it because we prepped a little for today. Because, yeah, we always did fall festivals, and my parents didn't make a huge deal about, not calling it Halloween or anything like that. And it's like I was just telling you before we started this. I think some of it has to do, like, when you have younger kids, the mention of anything that might be scary to them, you just kind of like stray away from.
Right. Yeah.
And even like, I know when June asks us about the devil, you and I just kind of look funny at each other because it
Yeah.
feels strange to, it's not like we're denying his existence, but also we always say like we don't want to, we'd rather talk and think and learn about Jesus and not give the devil
Yes.
more thought than he's worth. So I get where some people kind of are like, let's make this more about fall than Halloween. But let's go through some of the history here because we kind of did our own separate research.
As usual.
Yeah. um, do you want to start or do you want me to?
I'm still writing.
I see that. I'm like, I thought you had your notes, Brian.
Just got a couple of them.
Okay. So
We went through them. I wrote down what I dressed up as. Oh, no, before we move on, what was your favorite candy to get?
oh, that's a good one. Hmm. For me, basically
See, I do have stuff
anything,
written down.
basically anything with chocolate.
Of course.
My mom always called it the adult candy. She would
Chocolate was the adult
yeah,
candy?
because she liked that.
Oh.
I haven't really ever been a super sour person,
We
even
lived
though.
in Houston, so my mom had to go through every piece of candy.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to eat anything until.
It's probably another reason we didn't really bother with trick or treating.
We'd still get it, but my mom would like inspect
it.
every piece.
Yeah.
Um,
What was yours?
I just wrote down the ones I liked. And to this day, they still hold up. Skittles, little party packs of Skittles. Yep. Reese's. Reese's are always great.
Yes.
And then I think we would get these when I was a kid. Warheads.
Yes, that brings up. I did like
Airheads.
I liked
Airheads.
Airheads.
I didn't
Those
write that down.
little like
Airheads were good. And then now, I don't remember getting these when we were a kid, but the kids will get them now, and I'll snatch these. The Sour Patch.
Oh yeah,
because I do like sour.
No, and my palate has developed. I like sour more now.
Lay out of my sour stuff.
Okay.
Now we can move on.
Now we can move on to history. Okay. So, it is Halloween started as a pagan holiday, if you didn't know.
Well, that day, maybe.
Yes. No, it was a. So what it actually began as is
Because
the
there's like
Celts.
Hallowtide.
Yeah, but the Celts had a holiday. So November 1st was actually their new year. That's when they celebrated their new year, and so they were kind of like welcoming a new season of, wait for it, death, because the winter would obviously kill all their crops and things like that. It was a darker season, all of those things. So I think that's kind of where it all got started.
Okay.
And then I really don't know the bridge here, other than I guess it was just always part of their New Year's celebration. But it's like it was believed that this was a time, I guess because it was like more the season of quote unquote death. This was a time when they would say that like ghosts would come and visit.
Oh.
Yeah. And that belief is actually where people started wearing disguises, and they would call it guising, because that's why they would dress up as ghosts to blend in, so that any spirits or ghosts that were visiting that night would not bother them.
Makes sense.
Because they were in disguise.
Yeah,
just another ghost. You don't mess with them. And so this was one little tidbit that I liked. Like I said, I really enjoyed reading about it. It was very interesting. So there was one guy, his name was Jack, and he was said to have fought the devil, and didn't, because of that, like he couldn't go into hell, but obviously couldn't go into heaven. And so it was said that he like roamed the earth, and
interesting.
That's where you get jack-o'-lanterns, is because people were trying to scare Jack away.
Oh,
yeah,
I did not know that.
And the reason that you have like pumpkins and stuff is back then, well, because actually, did you know that pumpkin is it's native to America?
No,
I did not know that. I would not have
it
pictured
makes
that.
sense, but I didn't know that because I don't know anywhere else that eats pumpkin like we do.
Right. So it was all just the gourd, squashes and things like that.
Yeah.
In other countries that they would carve, but yeah, that was another interesting tidbit, that pumpkins are an American thing, or at least native to America. So, what else? What do you have?
Well, I kind of looked at Hallowtide in general.
Okay.
Which is, so I'd never heard of this before, but essentially, as we'll get in here, there's 3 kind of main days associated around Halloween. And so it's almost like a Triduum, if you want to call back to like our Lent episode.
Mm-hmm.
But so we've got Hallows Eve, All Saints Day, and All Souls Day. And those days have kind of moved around over the years, and then they ended up all kind of finishing out right here into these 3 days. And so,
and it was purposeful of the church to do that, like kind of aligning, not even aligning, making like a, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Almost like a way for people to celebrate the holiday, but not.
Yeah, so
not to be as pagan as it.
Well, so like, and this is a good example.
Originated.
Look, none of us were around back then. You can find, if you do any research on this, you're going to find very conflicting things.
Right.
And in all honesty, some of this is much ado about nothing, in my opinion. But like, so the Samhain, or however you say that.
Yeah. That's the I should have said that earlier. So the Celts, their New Year is
That's the festival
called,
that she was just talking about.
I would say it Samhain, but apparently it's pronounced Samhain.
Oh,
which I don't know how you get that out, but I read that
whatever.
somewhere.
So here's the interesting stuff to think about, and I went looking for my art history notes from college, and I can't find them.
Well, he did find one notebook that we thought was it.
Yeah, but that was rhetorical criticism, comms 3302. So I don't think that's going to help.
Yeah, but there were some. I could see from over here some love notes written in there.
Yes, maybe one. But anyways, so don't judge me for this. I'm going to go off script here. Think about how Christianity would have been spreading through Rome.
Right.
And obviously, Constantine is the first emperor who really made it a recognizable religion. But still, at that point, it was marginally spreading by word of mouth.
Yeah.
If memory serves me correct, and this is where I might be wrong, Charlemagne was one of the huge characters who would have
ambassadors.
Well, so he was. I don't know if he went by king, emperor, or what back then, but this is when a lot of the Germanic, Saxon, Celts, he kind of conquered a lot of those people. And he was huge on converting them to Christianity.
Right.
It's kind of the opposite of what we dealt with when Jesus walked, and everyone was getting crucified. So at this point, everyone has to become Christian. I don't remember. You can look up when Charlemagne was king or whatever, but he was smart. He would use bits and pieces, and this is where I think it gets dicey, and I might be saying the wrong words, but he essentially tried to make Christianity seem
attractive.
Yes, not as scary to these people, because remember, all these people are like worshiping like Odin and stuff like that at this time. So they would use things like colors and artwork and stuff like that. And when painters were painting things, this is where like lambs would get used, or lions as God, and that was more easy for them to identify with.
Yes.
And it didn't change any meaning. So this is where like you can find arguments on chicken or the egg there, but same kind of things would happen. So these days that I'd mentioned, like All Saints Days, All Souls Days, those date back to Pope Boniface, like 4th century, stuff like that.
Very, very early on.
Yes. And but they moved around. But this is where, you'll find cultural things with, like, how did you say it? Samhain?
Samhain, yes.
And so then they kind of decided, well, because there's questionable links on how much of that, it was the end of the year harvest festival.
Right.
How much of it actually, like they say in the Christianity articles you'll read, it's like Samhain was how they describe it, like a thinner veil between the afterworld and Earth, but it wasn't so much on ghosts, and that's going to be according to the the more
Right.
Christian stuff. But so anyways, they would align those things there and try to, all right, well, we'll put, guess what kind of is a thinner veil for us if we're looking at like All Saints Day, All Souls Day.
Right.
So they kind of bunched them all together. And I think things like that would make things more comfortable for people.
Yes.
And again, I could be wrong on this. It's been like 15 years since I was in school, but something like that happened somewhere if you can find it.
No, and it makes sense. And yeah, that was one thing that I read about too, was the colors. Like obviously black represented the season of death.
Yes.
But then orange was representative of the season of life that you were leaving.
Yes.
So like orange and black, that's where that came from. So yeah, and you'll find lots of different, to your point about some of it being like conflicting.
Yes.
You'll hear one side say this is where they got this, or this originated here, or you hear arguments about that. But it all kind of makes sense how we've gotten here out of looking at both sides, because like, for example, trick-or-treating. So I mentioned guising earlier, and how that was like, you dress up as a ghost so that you blend in and the ghosts don't mess with you. That was the idea. But then I guess somewhere along the way in that celebration, I guess probably I imagine like the guising kind of got more and more elaborate because it was fun.
Okay.
And so then at some point, you would not only have this disguise on, but you would like do a performance almost. In your disguise, and in exchange for that you would get a treat.
Interesting.
And so that's kind of like the Celtic version of where trick-or-treating comes from.
Yeah, and then the Christian is the soul cakes.
Yes, which I found this fascinating. So again, kind of same time of year, same holiday, if you will, that our season, changing, ending, that Christians were celebrating, and they would go door to door, and like I would go to your house and say, let me pray for the souls of your family. And
so let's pause there, because then this will make more sense if you don't know. So we've got the 3 days here. So All Saints Day is, this is funny because I actually read this. They're in probably other churches, but especially the Catholic Church, we have a lot of feast days.
Yes.
Of saints.
Yes.
Well, when they were putting this together, there was not enough days of the year, or every day was going to be feast of somebody. And so they had to stop doing that. And they also realized there was plenty of saints out there that nobody would ever know the name of, that had still performed miracles and stuff like that. So they couldn't all be known by name, so they just decided to give it one day, All Saints Day, just kind of as recognition for...
Well, and I read this, and I thought this was interesting because I hadn't read it like this before. And assuming I'm right in what I read, maybe I'm not. But All Saints Day is supposed to be for all those, and this would obviously be your perspective if you're Catholic, or I don't think otherwise. But anyways, All Saints Day would be for everyone that's in heaven. Basically, anyone who's made it through purgatory and into heaven.
Yes.
Because at that point, you're all saints. You're all purified.
Exactly. So that's going to lead us to this reason for the soul cake. So All Souls Day is for everyone who's not in heaven yet in purgatory. So especially back then, and still a little bit today, for I guess primarily, I don't know, but for Catholics at least.
Well, so I read about this, like purgatory has been a thing that was believed since the beginning times, and not challenged at all until like the 16th or later century, which is a really long time.
Yeah, I think it's...
So you look at it that way, like fairly recently.
Yeah.
That was ever even challenged, which isn't even what we're getting to here. But the point is,
the
everybody.
point was, if you're not
Yeah.
in a complete state of grace, you have to be. It's not that you can't go to heaven; you just have to be cleansed first.
Yeah, the idea is that God can't be in the presence of sin, and even though Jesus' death on the cross grants us access to heaven, we may not be sinless at the end of our life.
The way to imagine this is getting cleaned.
Yes, purified.
Yes, but so anyways, so that's purgatory. So All Souls Day would be for anyone, and here's the nugget for that. The thought behind purgatory is to help you with your cleansing process. You can pray for people on earth. You can pray for people in purgatory to help them with their journey, so to speak.
Yeah, and also because sometimes you'll hear like, well, purgatory is never mentioned in the Bible, and no, that term was like definitely postdates the Bible, but there's references here and there in the Bible of people saying that they prayed for someone who's passed on. So that's where some of the premise comes from. There's way more than that. I'm not
just one,
but that's just the easy one.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's where this, because it's a real big tangent, but this will make the soul cakes make more sense. So on All Souls Day, that's when a lot of people would gather and pray, and we'll talk about, because All Souls Day is really the interesting one where all the different kind of ethnicities have taken different routes with this. But anyways, so
you pray for those souls to
exactly. So that brings us to the soul cake. So on this day, the idea was the more people praying for your loved one's soul, the better that would fare for them, and maybe get them through purgatory quicker.
Right.
Obviously no one's been,
Yeah, nobody has any idea of what purgatory looks like or claims to. But yes, that's the thought.
People would come by your house, similar to like a trick-or-treating style, and they would, and this was a day for like poor people, beggars, like you would give money to people if they would pray for you, or soul cakes. That's what a lot of kids would do. They would come by and get their
and so they pray for the souls of your family, and they get the soul cake in exchange, which I thought was really cool.
If we lived in a neighborhood, you'd have to bake some soul cakes.
Yeah.
We don't, so we don't get trick-or-treaters, but
we'll have to incorporate that when the boys are older, and we can like tell them this story.
Yeah.
Like bake a soul cake. Anyways, okay, is this a good place to talk about one of my favorite recent Disney movies?
Okay. Oh, Coco?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is all kind of in that same vein.
Yeah, so if you have not seen Coco, it's a really good one.
Yeah, it is.
Me and Brian watch it when it comes on, or the boys, we've tried multiple times to get them really into it. They're not super into it, but they do like it.
They go through phase. They went through a phase where they wanted to watch it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just mainly like Lightning McQueen or Incredibles or Bust right now, but which I don't hate. Those movies are really good too.
Yeah.
But yes, Coco is all about Dia de los Muertos. Muertos,
I think.
Muertos?
One of them. I don't know.
Anyways, there's a lot of history baked into that movie that I didn't know, and I found fascinating watching it. It's pretty interesting.
So expound.
Well, I thought you were gonna expound on this.
Okay. Well, I guess so. So that kind of references All Souls Day. I don't know if they celebrate that on All Souls Day, though. I don't know exactly. Well, no, it's a whole week.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a week or not, but it may not line up with that. But yes, it's this. So the idea is that
it's a Mexican tradition. It's not just Hispanic, and it was so. The thought is they kind of borrowed some of this from the Aztecs. That's kind of where some of the dead walking and stuff, I think some of that came from the Aztecs, but there was also a thought, and I can't remember what the name is. The Spanish have another one that probably more aligns with Christianity, like the All Souls cake and everything. But there was a thought that the Mexican people wanted to differentiate themselves from the Spanish, and obviously as there was a lot of Aztec heritage in Mexico, and so that's kind of where this week came from.
Mm-hmm.
And but a lot of the traditions they use, like in that movie, they show all the candles being lit and stuff
Yes.
in
Isn't it the
the graveyard.
ofrenda? Isn't
Well,
that what it's
that's
called?
in the house. Yeah, your
Yeah.
ofrenda. And that's where you put the pictures of loved ones, and that's kind of all over. Because I was in, I think they call it Zaduski. Like in Polish has one. It's not just polka music that we're similar with. Like that's as far as Europe, it's a national holiday, I think, in Poland, which is essentially they call it like Zaduski or something, but it's All Souls Day. But they do kind of the same thing. Like all the family gets together and they have a meal, and a lot of times they'll have pictures out of loved ones that have passed on, and apparently all the cemeteries are like lit with candles like everywhere. And they like clean the headstones and stuff like that, put flowers out. So it's very similar to what you see in Coco.
Mm-hmm.
Is
And the idea is that the loved ones that have passed on can come back as long as you're remembering them.
Yeah, I think
so that's why you have your
the
ofrenda.
That's more of the Mexican
Mexican.
side. I don't know that, and see, that's where I don't know if that's from the Aztecs or not. But in the European side, I never found anything that said they thought they could come back or not. But there are things where they would like make the people's favorite meal, and definitely at least talk about them and stuff like that.
Well, I think that tradition like that is really cool. Trying
I do too.
Like look back and remember and gather family and stuff. I think it's
well,
really
and that's
cool.
the thing. We've never done anything for, and so like one of the things I was reading is a lot of times, and I guess this makes sense, but ironically, like All Saints Day, I don't think is a holiday very many places, but in Europe, I think All Souls Day in at least multiple countries is like a national holiday. Because even like Halloween's a holiday here, but we don't take off work. You don't take off work or anything. I think it's like a non-work day in some European countries and stuff like that, and we've gone to church on All Saints or All Souls Day. I don't really remember.
I think it was All Saints Day because our
I'm
church
talking
has
about
where you can like.
up.
Oh, okay. Carry on.
Well,
we tried to participate last year, I think, in All Saints Day, and I think we got the wrong day.
Yeah, yeah. It's
like we were gonna dress the boys up.
Oh yeah, because they'll dress up and do like a little parade. You dress up like a saint, but we would go. But other than that, like there was no like tradition or anything with it. But some of the stuff you read about in these different cultures, I think, is cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Do you have any other nuggets?
I'm all nuggeted out.
Anyways, I think our boys are in our house I don't really like stray away from saying Halloween or anything, and for us the boys are obsessed with costumes. So
yes.
I'm making this a big deal for as long as I possibly can, because the day that June doesn't want to just randomly dress up anymore is going to be really, really, really sad to me.
No, and that's why like we didn't grow up with like he already at 5 years old probably has more costumes than either one of us ever had put together.
And it's like we were saying earlier, like I cherish all those memories of like the homemade costumes and everything. But for June, his memories are going to be like these costumes that we get him, he then dresses up in until they're too small. Like he just plays in them later on, all throughout the year. So passes them on to his brothers. Is still asking where that one is that I had to get rid of because it got torn up.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He doesn't forget anything.
But I do think it's still so like we're just gonna do Halloween and stuff like that. Yet some of the stuff I found, and I highly suggest you look into some of these, like All Saints Day, All Souls Day. Some of the traditions you'll find with them are kind of cool, like the soul cakes and different things like that. And I guess the other thing is, if you have any fears or inhibitions about this being like some big pagan day, it's not. It's
I think it's
recognized Christianity. Well, there's some people out there that I think still think that.
Yes, and I mean, look, that's your prerogative too. If you want to not, it's kind of like we were saying earlier when June brings up the devil, it can be kind of like weird to handle. And if that's what you're afraid of, there's other ways of celebrating.
Well, and I think more of that morphed from probably the 1900s.
Yeah.
Than I mean, I don't know, but everything I've read historically, that doesn't even really pop up until probably costumes of it started popping up. I don't know.
And then nowadays you have to make sure that your kids' candy isn't laced. So there's all kinds of things to look out for. But I think what was interesting about this, and if y'all haven't gathered this, Brian and I are pretty big on discussion in our house, and
Right.
just, I don't know, talking about things, and talking with the boys about all kinds of different things. So I think that doing some of this research has been interesting, and there are probably some things that we will talk with them about, and try to kind of pass on, and give them food for thought and things like that. So
Yeah.
I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking Halloween here.
Yeah, you got a little bit of maybe some made up history, maybe some accurate, but you may have
a little bit of art history from Brian.
No, I need to find that book. It's somewhere. There's gold in there.
Yeah.
That was an awesome class. But no, now you have a little bit more information, and it's not just all one day. You got a few days here of the celebration, I guess, because like I said, you got Hallows Eve, All Saints Day, All Souls Day. So I think it's in that order.
I think, I don't know.
All Souls is November 2nd.
Oh, I thought that was November 1st. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I could be wrong, too. Well, look, gives you something to look up
Good
now.
thing y'all have the Google machine.
Yeah. Now that we have unpacked Halloween, All Saints and Souls Day, you go discuss.